So a very good morning. In today's lecture, I will talk about the electromagnetic wave propagation in free space, in a non-conducting media and a conducting media. So in the last lecture, I wrote the Maxwell equations in free space. And I told you that in free space, the volume charge density is equal to 0, and also the conductivity is also equal to 0 because physical absence of gas is free space. The relative permeability as well as the relative permittivity or dielectric constant is also equal to 1. So therefore we can write down the equation divergence of E is equal to 0, divergence of H is equal to 0, divergence curl of E is minus del V over del T, and curl of H is epsilon 0 del E over del T. Now if you take the equation number 3 and take the curl of both sides, same thing you will be doing for equation number 4 also, but I am doing it for 3, and I will write down the equation for 4 that you can check at the end at your place. So if you take the curl of both sides of equation number 3, this becomes a curl of E. It is now minus curl of del B over del T. So now on the right hand side, I told you that curl is a space derivative and del over del T is a time derivative. So therefore they can be interchanged without any problem. And we can write the right hand side as minus del over del T curl of B. The left hand side is curl of E. You have to remember basically this because we have to use it quite often in our course. So it is gradient of divergence of E minus del square E is minus del over del T of curl of E. So divergence of E is equal to 0 in this particular case. So therefore it is minus del square E, and this is now minus del over del T. In place of curl of B, we will put mu naught epsilon naught from equation 4 because this is for H. If you want to write it for B, then the curl of a B will be mu naught epsilon naught del E over del T. So if you make that substitution and remove the minus sign from both sides, then we get the equation del square E is equal to minus mu 0 epsilon 0 del square E over del T square. You can do the same thing starting from equation number 4, taking the curl of both sides and making a substitution from equation number 3. You will get a similar equation del square H is equal to mu naught epsilon naught del square H over del T square. If you recall the equation of a progressive wave, y is equal to a sine 2 pi by lambda Vt minus x, or y is equal to a sine omega t minus kx. There are several ways of writing down the equation. Differentiate it twice with respect to distance and twice with respect to time. And if you put it together, you will get d square y over dx square to be equal to 1 over b square del square y over del t square. So if you look at the equation number 5 and 6, equation number 5 and 6 are similar to the differential equation of wave motion. So what we can do, in fact, the differential general wave is del square phi over del x square plus del square phi over del y square plus del square phi over del z square is 1 over b square del square psi over del t square, where b is the velocity of light. So just by looking at the equation number 5 and 6, these are the equation of the progressive wave for the electric field vector and the magnetic field vector EH. So from equation number 5 and 6, we can conclude that both the electric field vector and the magnetic field vector propagate in free space like a wave. And then what is the velocity? If you make use of both the equations and compare it with the general equation of the wave motion, that is progressive wave. The velocity of both the electric field vector and the magnetic field vector comes out to be 1 upon under root of mu naught into epsilon naught. So that is nothing but the velocity of light. So 1 upon mu naught into epsilon naught comes out to be 3 into 10 to the power of 8. That is the velocity of light. So just by the one thing about these two equations is that all the three components of the electric field and all the three components of the magnetic field in general can be obtained by solving equation number 5 and 6. Both E and H can be solved on the similar footing. That means if you know how to solve E, you can make use of the same law to solve H also. So both electric field vector and the magnetic field vector propagation is nothing but the electromagnetic wave. So both E and B propagate like waves in the free space. This is what we get by playing with the 4 Maxwell equations in the free space. And the other important information that we got, that these electric field and the magnetic field vector together, they are nothing but the electromagnetic wave. They travel with a speed to be equal to the velocity of light. Now let us find out the plane electromagnetic wave solution of the two equations. We assume as if Ex is along the x-axis and it is a function of a z. Z is the direction of propagation of the wave. Electric field is along the x-axis and the magnetic field B is along the y-axis. If you can even check, you must have read about Poynting vector. Poynting vector is E cross H. So it's E cross H. So if you find out E cross H, I cross J is nothing but K. So that is the direction of propagation. So if E has a X component and B has a Y component, let us make use of equation number 3. So here I, J, K is there. Del over del X, del over del Y and del over del Z is there. We will call it as a plane electromagnetic field if the variation is there along the direction of propagation only. Both del over del Y and del over del X are equal to 0. Plane electromagnetic wave is defined like this only, that there are variation along the direction of propagation. So del over del X being non-zero, del over del X and del over del Y are equal to 0. Only del over del Z is non-zero. So if you just compare the Y component of this, Y component, X component is 0, Z component is 0. If you compare the Y component, because magnetic field on the right hand side has a Y component, so we have del Ex over del Z is equal to minus del By over del T. Similarly, del square Ex over del Z square is mu naught epsilon naught del square Ex over del T square. That comes from the general wave equations, from where we have written all these things. So we can write down a general solution of this equation in terms of Z as the direction of our propagation. Be careful. So Ex, electric field, is along the x-axis. It is a function of Z, that is the direction of propagation. It is a function of time. And we can write it as E0 cos of omega t minus kz, or E0 e to the power of j into omega t minus kz. K is the propagation constant. Omega is 2 pi times the frequency, you already know. Similarly, By can also be written as B0 into cos of omega t minus kz, or we can write down in this form also. So if you write down a general solution from the wave equation of the electric field and the magnetic field vector and put it in the third Maxwell equation, whose simplified form is del Ex over del Z is minus del By over del T. If you put it here, so do these things yourself, then only you will be able to understand, because this is not a classroom blackboard where I can show you all the things. Here, whatever I am going to present, you have to assume it, but please verify it by doing at your own. So you will find out a C into By to be equal to Ex, And if you put these values, the value of a B0 is E0 upon C. B is equal to E upon C is a well-known relation between the magnetic field and the electric field vector. The magnetic field vector is very small because it is 1 upon C, and C is the velocity of light. So we get the relation. We get the relation, and this relation comes from this equation. Moving further, so Ex upon By is now C. Suppose we want to write down Ex upon Hy. B is equal to mu 0 H. So the mu 0 will also be there. So it's a mu 0 into C. And C is 1 upon under root of mu naught into epsilon naught. That is the velocity of electromagnetic wave propagation in free space. So if you put them together, it comes out to be under root of mu naught and epsilon naught. If you put the value of mu naught, that is 4 pi into 10 to the power minus 7, and epsilon 0 as 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12, and calculate this value, it comes out to be 377 ohm. The ratio of the electric field and the magnetic field vector has the unit of impedance, has the unit of resistance, and this is called characteristic impedance or intrinsic impedance. It is the impedance offered by the medium for the electromagnetic wave to travel the free space. So it's a very important number that you will have to remember and check also that we get basically this value. So 377 ohm is the intrinsic impedance of the free space which is exerted by the medium on the electromagnetic wave to pass through. Suppose now we translate the same thing. I am not going into the details. You will also come across these electromagnetic waves are transverse. So transverse means both the electric field and the magnetic field vector, they are perpendicular to each other, and they are also perpendicular to the direction of propagation. You can see yourself also, X is the direction of the propagation of electric field vector, B is the direction of propagation of Y is the direction of propagation of the magnetic field vector, and Z is the direction of propagation of the wave. The pointing vector P is equal to E cross H is also pointing along the direction of propagation of the wave. Suppose we wish to repeat the entire thing for a non-conducting medium. We have to find out what will be the differences. In a non-conducting medium, the conductivity will be equal to 0 because, as the name suggests, non-conducting. The volume charge density rho will also be equal to 0, but it may have, the non-conducting medium may have a relative permeability and a dielectric constant. So we assume as if the non-conducting medium is a non-magnetic. It's not magnetic, it's a non-magnetic. So if it is non-magnetic, the value of mu 0 will be mu 0 because we are taking mu r relative permeability as 1. But you can see that I have written here epsilon 0 k. K is a dielectric constant, or epsilon r. That also we can put. But since I am not using basically propagation constant here, that is why I have taken the liberty of putting this dielectric constant k here. So it's a C upon under root of k. The value of k is larger than 1. So the velocity will be less than C. So the important difference between the propagation of electromagnetic wave in free space and the non-conducting media, that in non-conducting media, electromagnetic wave propagation takes place with a velocity less than the velocity of light. One more important thing that I want to discuss with you is you have read that the refractive index N is a ratio of the velocity of light in that medium. The refractive index of a medium is the velocity ratio of the velocity of light in vacuum divided by the velocity of light in that medium. So B is equal to the velocity of light in a medium is the velocity of light in vacuum divided by the refractive index of the medium. If you compare the two, you can see yourself that under root k is equal to n, or k is equal to n square. That means a dielectric constant and the refractive index, they are same. They are related to each other by the relation k is equal to n square. Now, with this much of introduction about electromagnetic waves in a free space and the conducting media, now I take you to the electromagnetic waves in a non-conducting media. And as I told you that in non-conducting media, the value of rho can be equal to 0, but the value of sigma will not be equal to 0. And when we talk about a conducting media, the conduction is taking place because of the movement of electrons, because of the movement of conduction electrons that we have to remember. So when the electromagnetic wave propagation takes place in a conducting media, the first equation now is divergence of a d is equal to rho. We can put this also to be equal to 0. So you can check all the four equations. There is a difference in the fourth equation where we have J is sigma E. The value of sigma is not equal to 0. We will do the same thing once again. We will take the curl of equation number 3 of both sides, make the substitution by using equation number 4, and then once again taking the curl of equation number 4 both sides and substituting equation number 3 in it, and we will get the two equations, one for the electric field and other for the magnetic field. Let us see where is the difference between the electromagnetic wave equation in a non-conducting media and the conducting media. You take the curl, so curl of E will give us gradient of divergence of E minus del square E. And here on this side, we will have mu 0 because we have B here. So we have mu 0 into sigma into E. Here I have removed this 0 because I am assuming as if my medium has some relative permeability, and some relative permeability, that means some dielectric constant. So in place of mu 0, I am using mu. In place of epsilon 0, I am using epsilon. So we can always write epsilon as epsilon 0 into epsilon r, and mu as mu r into mu 0 into mu r. That is why you can see that I have written B is equal to mu h, not B is equal to mu 0 h. That was the case earlier. Because here I can always write my mu as mu 0 into mu r. And similarly, I can write down this epsilon as epsilon 0 into k, or epsilon 0 into epsilon r, where epsilon r and k, they denote basically the dielectric constant of a medium. So if you substitute it and write down the equation in the final form, del square E is now mu epsilon del square E over del T square plus mu sigma into del E over del T. Similarly, if you repeat the same thing for equation number 4, make the substitution by using equation number 3, you will end up with a similar equation. So the equation is similar, only in place of E we have H. So you can see these are the two equations which has to be solved to give us the information about electromagnetic wave propagation in a conducting media. Where is the difference? You see that we have an additional term mu into sigma into dE over dt. Suppose we want to switch over to non-conducting media again. You put the value of sigma to be equal to 0, and you see that we end up with the equation similar to the one that we are supposed to get for a non-conducting media, because if you replace a mu and epsilon by mu 0 and epsilon 0, then they correspond to the free space. Now, if you look at the equation, the first two terms of both the equations are similar to the wave equation. We have a perturbation term, that is the third term, mu sigma into del E over del T. So we will still assume a progressive wave or a wave propagation given by the equation of a progressive wave, that is Ex is equal to E0 e to the power of j into omega t minus kz. The similar wave propagation we have assumed is taking place through a conducting media also. So if you substitute this Ex is equal to E0 e to the power of j into omega t minus kz, or you can take Ey to be equal, sorry, By to be equal to B0 e to the power of j into omega t minus kz and put in the magnetic field equation. The results will be the same. So if you put it into the equation for electric field here, in place of a del square E, we will take only one dimension equation. So it is a del square E over del Z square along the direction of propagation only. Similarly, for the magnetic field, we will write down del square Hy over del Z square. So if you look at this term here, it is the double derivative of electric field as a function of distance. You see distance is coming here, and with the distance in the exponential term, we have minus jk. So that is why I have written minus jk is square. Then differentiation will give you E0 and also the exponential term that will also be here. But the reason for not writing that Ex here, that it's a common term in all the three terms. So I have basically saved one line, not writing Ex in all the three terms and then removing. So you will assume as if Ex is there, and then since it is common, so that is why I have not written. So I have Ex here also. Now move on to the second term, mu into epsilon. Second derivative with respect to time. So it's a j omega. So j omega is square. Again, the minus sign, it will be a plus sign because j omega, but since it is square, so put a plus sign here. Then now coming to mu sigma, and then we have del E over del T, first derivative. So it's a j omega. So here I have written j omega correctly, but here by mistake I have put a minus sign here also, but it did not show me because it's a square. So since it is a square, so minus and plus hardly makes any difference. But please change the sign and put it as plus. So this now becomes minus k square because of this j. Because of this j again, this becomes minus mu epsilon omega is square, and this is j into omega into mu into sigma. Our k square is now equal to minus j omega mu sigma plus mu epsilon omega is square. What is the difference? The difference can be seen from this equation only. You can check if the value of the conductivity is 0. Then k square is mu into sigma, mu into epsilon into omega is square, which is similar to the non-conducting or free space case. Here, the important thing to see that our propagation constant k is now imaginary. Why is it imaginary? Because of the value of sigma. So we have to take if we really want to find out the value of k, we have to take the square root. You can consider both the terms together, take the square root by using the complex function law. But here, if you want to find out the mod of k square, the mod of k square is given by the sum of the mod of the real term square and the imaginary term square. If you look at the term along with sigma, if it is a good conductor, the conductivity will be very high. So the imaginary term will dominate over the real term. So that is why for good conductor, this k square can be approximated as minus j omega mu into sigma. If you don't agree with this logic, you find out the roots k by considering both the terms, okay, and the physics will remain the same. Here, I have basically simplified the whole thing, and I have taken as if the real term is negligibly small, only the imaginary term, because of the larger conductivity for good conductor, will dominate. So I have taken k square to be equal to minus j omega mu and sigma. So therefore, k will now be equal to minus j omega mu and sigma. We write down, in fact, the way of doing this is we have to assume that k is now equal to alpha minus j beta. Take the square of both sides. So alpha is square minus beta is square minus 2j alpha beta. So the first equation will be alpha square minus beta square. Alpha square minus beta square will be 0 because there is no real term. But if you really want to take it, you have to write it as mu, epsilon and omega square. You can do it. There is no problem. The other is 2 alpha beta. So if you find out the value of alpha and beta, you will basically get, because this is omega, mu and sigma, you take it out, it is under root of minus j, that will come out to be 1 minus j upon under root 2. If you really want to be comfortable at this stage, unless and until you work it out, you take the square of this term. Take the square of 1 minus j upon under root 2 whole square. So 1 minus j whole square is 1 plus j square, that is minus 1 minus 2j. So 1 minus 1 will be 0. So square of 1 minus j will be minus 2j. And in the denominator, we have under root 2, that square will give us 2. So we get back the minus j. So that is how you can check right now that square root of minus j will be 1 minus j upon under root 2. And this is a under root of omega mu sigma. So both alpha and beta will come out to be the same alpha and beta, and they will be equal to under root of omega mu sigma upon 2. So therefore, now with conducting media, the physics is altogether different. Our propagation constant is now imaginary. And once it is imaginary, now we can make a substitution for k. K is now alpha minus j beta, where alpha and beta are under root of omega mu and sigma upon root 2 square root. So if you put it here, so this see carefully, when this goes inside, then this term comes outside and it becomes E0 e to the power of minus beta z e to the power of j into omega t minus alpha z. So the phase factor here, phase factor is dictated by alpha, and because of j square, that is minus 1, beta terms comes outside of this sinusoidal term, that is e to the power of j into omega 2 minus alpha z. So that is the reason why alpha is called a phase factor, because alpha is responsible for changing the phase, and beta is called attenuation factor because it is responsible for attenuating the electric field and the magnetic wave, and we call them as phase factor and attenuation factor. Please don't remember alpha and beta. Try to understand which is attenuation factor and which is phase factor. Maybe in the textbook you have beta as phase factor and alpha as attenuation factor, and you will be confused. So it's better to understand why we call alpha as phase factor, because alpha is now responsible for defining the phase of the electric field and the magnetic field vector propagating in a conducting media. So if you look at this term, Ex is equal to E0, e to the power minus beta z, e to the power of j into omega t minus alpha z. As the wave propagates, as the value of z increases, the field attenuates exponentially and retards linearly in phase with increasing z. As the value of z increases, because of e to the power minus beta z, the amplitude of the wave decreases exponentially, while e to the power of j omega t minus alpha z. So since z is increasing, so it retards linearly in phase with increasing z, because that term is reducing because of the increase in the value of z. So if you compare the behavior of the wave propagation in a free medium, free space, non-conducting media and the conducting media, if the wave is propagating through a non-conducting media or the free space, the electric field vector and the magnetic field vector move without any deterioration. Their amplitude is constant throughout the medium. But here, both the phase factor and the amplitude keeps on decreasing as the wave is incident at the boundary of a conducting medium. Now looking at this term, the amplitude is E0 e to the power minus beta z. Suppose now beta z is equal to 1. Let us take the value of beta z is equal to 1. It will happen when z is equal to 1 upon beta, or when the wave will propagate 1 upon beta, and beta is under root of omega mu sigma upon 2. So if you substitute the values, the value of a z is under root of 2 upon omega mu and sigma. This distance is called depth of penetration or skin depth. It is the distance at which the intensity of radiation or the intensity of electromagnetic wave or the intensity of electric field and the magnetic field vector inside the material falls to 1 upon E. Put the value of E, that amounts to about 37% of its original value at the surface. So as soon as the wave is incident onto a surface, its effect is limited to few skin depth only. Skin depth means after traveling a distance equal to under root 2 upon omega mu into sigma, it will decay by 37%. So after few skin depth, its effect will be lost. So therefore we can say, if the electromagnetic wave is incident on a conducting media, its effect is limited to the surface. That is why we call it as skin depth. It is also called depth of penetration. Its effect is limited to a few skin depth only. Now I will give you some example. Suppose we take the case of copper. Copper is a very good conductor with a conductivity of the order of 6 into 10 to the power 7 mho per meter. Mho is 1 over ohm. So it's mho per meter. Let us take a frequency of 1 megahertz. So if you take a frequency of 1 megahertz and calculate the value of depth of penetration, it comes out to be 67 micron. You can see yourself 0.067 millimeter. That is 67 micron. That means if I cover a room with a aluminum foil, with a copper foil of a thickness larger than basically this thickness, then we can avoid the hindrance of electromagnetic wave incident on it from outside. So good conductors are always opaque to light, because whenever the light is incident, I have taken the frequency at megahertz. If you consider the visible light, the frequency is still higher. So you can calculate even for the visible light starting from 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. You can make a calculation at your own and find out the depth of penetration, and you will see that the depth of penetration is very small, and that is the reason why good conductors are always highly opaque to the light. When the light is incident, light will not pass through it. Its effect is limited to its surface, that is the skin itself. Another example quoting here is the seawater. Seawater conductivity is a 4 mho per meter. If I put a frequency of 10 kilohertz, the value of Z comes out to be 2.5 meters. This is called 10 kilohertz. If you just see, it is a poor conductor of communication. If we really want to communicate for radio communication with a submerged submarine, in fact, it's not possible. It is not possible because of a very high conductivity, and also the frequency, and also the not frequency that we choose. So since the radio communication is done at a larger frequency, so frequency is obviously larger, but seawater has a larger conductivity also. So because of this, the effect of the wave is limited to the surface only, and it is very difficult to communicate the signal with the submerged submarine inside this. So you have to make some calculation of calculating basically the these numbers. These numbers, I mean, you can take another example of ionosphere. You must have read about the layer of the atmosphere. Ionosphere is totally ionized because of the sun radiation falling on it. then you can find out what is the skin depth for the ionosphere that we have. Although if you start moving to the ionosphere from the Earth's surface and then keep on moving more and more inside the ionosphere, the conductivity will keep on increasing because of the increase in the number of density of ions, and the skin depth will keep on changing. But it is a very common way of communication, whatever is incident onto the ionosphere, that gets reflected, because no transmission will take place to the ionosphere because of high conductivity and high frequencies. You can make calculations at your own and convince yourself that how these things, how the conductivity or conducting medium behave quite differently for the propagation of electromagnetic wave propagation in a conducting media. So that is all about today. In the next lecture, I will take another medium, that is basically the ionized medium, and we will discuss the interesting physics associated with the ionized medium, that is ionosphere again. Ionosphere is basically ionized medium. So we cannot call it, it is a conducting medium, but it is made up of ions and electrons, so that we will see in the next lecture.